Hey, 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 football moms. What's going on,
What it do?
girlies? How
So
you
I'm
feeling,
Regine
Regine?
Hill. I'm good. How are you, Miss AB?
I'm good.
What's up with those headphones though?
Girl. Okay, so last time when we had our episode, they were telling me that there was feedback. So I was like, okay, they're like, maybe you should try some headphones. So I'm like, oh my God, who uses headphones? Well, at least I haven't used headphones in like forever, right? And so I'm like, I think I have some around here. So I go and I look, but look how big and bulky. I mean, this ain't it. I
You in the
was like,
computer lab
it's
and
definitely
building
given,
203 in high
definitely
school.
given. I'm gonna have to go get me some ear pods. I mean, I have some, but I'm like, I don't even know why I didn't use them, but they were just like, oh, headphones would be better. So I'm like, if I have to do the headphone thing on here, I'm gonna have to go get me some cute ones. Cause yeah,
Yeah.
these like first generation beats. Like
Wait, they had a first generation?
I'm just saying that. Like it's like the first set that came out or whatever. I don't know, but it's definitely time to upgrade. I don't know, maybe a different color or something. I don't know. I just got to figure this out. We got to figure these headphones out. Mhm.
Okay, bet. So what's on the agenda today, honey?
Well,
Honey bunny.
I think today we're just gonna talk, right?
Okay.
And we're gonna talk like we just normally talk how we be on the phone.
Period.
And because somebody was like, you always, seem so serious, but people don't really know the real you, and people need to learn the real you. And I'm like, I don't really want people to know I'm goofy and I'm cool. I don't want them to know there's another side of me. I gotta look tough all the time. I'm just joking. But now, I think we both give that illusion because we do have to be serious in the space that we in, that people don't know how goofy we really are, right? And so I just thought like today would be a good day to just kind of talk. But I do want to touch on some things that have been like really trendy and touchy that has crossed our desk these last couple of days. Like one, this whole should a high school student athlete sign to an agent? That's been like this ongoing thing right now. Um, and I don't know if you really want to touch on this whole thing because we kept getting phone calls from moms like, should moms be, gearing up when they go on these football trips, and these visits, like that whole viral picture that went out with the moms. And I'm just like, why are y'all asking me this touchy stuff again? I like to mind my business, okay?
Listen, I'll talk about it.
I'm like, Lord, why? But I will say this. I always tell people at the end of the day, like when it comes to the high school piece or whether or not a student athlete should have representation in this time, we go through that all the time, even on the professional level, because we do represent coaches and players. So on a coaching space, it's always this thing of like, oh, should I have an agent? When should I get an agent? The year one of my career, year, whatever. I think it's subjective because we in a business that there's no like rule book, there's no like indefinite way to do anything. Like every situation is so unique and so different. I understand that there's some similarities, but like there's a lot of stuff that just is different. So I will say this in terms of like I tell even professionals, like I wouldn't be doing business with anybody and not having a representation. Like me not doing
Correct.
it. Especially when you don't know anything about that space. Like, why would you do business with a university and not have representation? That to me is insane. So when it comes to the high school piece, I tell people this is if your son is doing business, then he needs representation, unless you know the business. If
Correct.
you have a college student now, they need a representation because a representative, they're doing business with a university. Like I tell people all the time, like this is a different beast. This is a different like lane. I've been negotiating with universities over the 7 years. It's different. It's not like the NFL where there's a CBA and there's rules and there's guidelines and there's certain do's and don'ts that you can and cannot put inside of an agreement or a contract, right? We have this SRA, there's this standard here. And yes, you have your addendums that you can add, but then you got to submit that to somebody and they got to look at it and they got to approve. It's not like that on this college level. The university can put whatever language they want inside of there in regards to how they do business. I haven't seen anything, unless Regina, I'm tripping, where they are governing the language in which these kids are signing. And so I try to
Right.
tell parents that if you're doing business with a school baby and you don't know nothing about that, you might want to get your child some representation. Okay? Because as much as a coach might love a kid, they work for the university. And the university
Mm,
is going to do whatever is best for the university. That's business. I don't know too many people who are going to walk inside creating a deal and put the best interest equally or the best interest in the other party. That's why negotiation is important. So for you to
right.
come into a mindset of, oh, the coach love my kid, the coach ain't gonna mess over my son, baby. The coach don't make no decisions when it comes to this agreement, baby. So, like, ma'am, sir, like, get your emotions out of this. This is strictly
Right.
business. And now, really, they're treating these kids like, I call it the mini NFL right now, because that's pretty much what it
Oh
is.
yeah,
If you ask
for
me.
sure, for sure. Listen, Bishop, you just did a whole sermon just right now. So let me just break it
I
down
hate
for
you.
those in the back who was not paying attention. So basically, if you do not have representation for your son, in the high school space, going into college or college right now, it's literally like you putting a blindfold over their eyes and having them walk into a boardroom, and you and him have no idea what's going on. So on AB's part with these coaches are employed by the university, like you say. So you are expecting these coaches to stand 10 toes down for your son, like you would, but you got to think about it. You got to put it in perspective. These coaches work for the university. They're going to make sure that themselves and their family is straight before anything else. So that means making sure their money is good. They can be able to put food on the table. They can still have job security. That's more important than making sure that your son signs the correct paperwork. So I want you to keep that in mind when you're in this process of navigating this big NIL space. And this is why AB came up with this football's mom masterclass, so she could dig down deep and teach you ladies and some dads, but teach you all the importance of what questions you need to ask, how to create leverage for you and your family. So when you walk into these rooms and during these OVs, you could be able to articulate yourself in a way where it's like, oh, okay, I know not to play with her. I know not to put words above her head because she knows exactly what she's talking about. Ain't that
And
right?
it's funny that you say that, because I always tell people, like, we represent coaches. So we get to have conversations that, we're going to call it the inner corridors. Like, when the door is closed, we know the hearts of what really happens inside these rooms, right? And so it's one of those things where a coach can tell, we can tell a mile away when you don't know anything. Like, you might think that it doesn't come off that way, because I know some moms that be like, well, I'm gonna just be quiet. That way, if I'm quiet, you don't know, whether or not I know anything. But it's almost like a stench or odor that we just can get and feel. That's why even when I talk to some parents, they'd be like, yeah, my son don't need no representation, and da 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 da, and they saying certain things because the school told me this, and the school told me about their graduation rate and this and that, and I'd be like, huh? you
Apples
know
to oranges,
what?
love.
And I'd be like, well, baby, do what's best for you and your child, because at the end of the day, y'all are the only ones that got to live with the consequences of his decisions. I don't. You right? I just know that I
Right.
go to sleep good at night knowing that, and it got to the point where at one point my classes have always been invite only, and, like, by referral kind of thing, because my capacity to deal with people who basically want to tell me how things go when they don't know, my tolerance level is very low. So it gets to a point where I'm trying to I can't convince you about the realities of negotiating with a university, baby. Like, when you're
Right.
negotiating with a university, there are attorneys that have drafted this paperwork. They go and hire attorneys. So you mean to tell me you're not only not an attorney yourself, you have no background and understanding of skill set, history of negotiating with a university, um, with language that is kind of like, we call it the Wild Wild West, anything goes. And you
Right.
think
Free
that y'all,
game.
yeah, y'all gonna be able to handle that on y'all own? Good luck. I don't have nothing, so I just tell parents like, listen, I'm not in the business anymore because I used to get very frustrated and, go back and just like, because my desire is like, I don't want you to get messed over. Like, I'm here to help you. Like, like, listen to me,
Right.
like meeting with people like, baby, this not the route. Like, you don't want to go down this road because I've been doing this for over 15 years.
Right.
So, I've seen the horror stories. If you and I know how many times we get phone calls about parents that want to unalive a whole building because their son got messed over, or oh, he's not eligible because he left one school and now he had another school, and somebody dropped the
Right.
ball somewhere at one of these universities and everybody's pointing fingers, and the only person that pays that price is the player.
It's the kid.
And so,
Yeah, the
yeah,
kid.
it's like, I'm trying to educate you so you can educate him so that we can like stop some of this going on, because what people don't understand is that coaches do not always know compliance. Coaches do not always know the rules. Coaches don't always know when it comes to academics. They can look at something like I can and audit something based off of what the criteria. They don't always do that. There's different departments, right, that
Right.
handle some of these pieces and these nuances. And so again, they are working for the university. They have a boss, and you're really
Mm-hmm.
negotiating with the boss. All they're doing is taking them terms and conditions from this school and handing them over to you. Half of them haven't even read the agreement.
Nope.
And so I'm not trying to be funny, and I'm not saying anything bad against coaches, because we represent coaches. We got some good coaches that will put their life on the line for children. I know some coaches that will stand 10 toes down for kids. I also know some coaches that don't care and will tell you this is
Right.
100% business and don't care who feels anything about it. Like, that's their stance. This is business. Ain't no emotions in this. So that's where we are. And that's what I tell people now. We're in a space where it's not just about where a kid want to go. Like, oh, I love this university and I just want to go there. Baby, what terms are you agreeing to, sweetheart?
Right.
What terms and conditions? What is tied to this NIL money? Because now they're trying to put language in these kids' contracts the same way that they do for my college coaches. And I'm saying I've watched college coaches sometimes struggle to get out of some of this paperwork and language. And yet alone, you talking about your son don't need no representation, and they sitting here playing chess and you playing checkers. Okay.
Right. And even to the point where, we've seen, and it might even get even worse now, where these coaches may be messing with transcripts in classes to see, to make
Regina,
sure
why you
your
going?
child
Why
won't
you going
transfer out.
there? Why you going there? You're trying to get us to trouble. Listen, that's why some of this
But
stuff,
I'm just saying,
listen, some of this stuff I only teach in my class. That's my safe space. But
I'm
to your
putting that out
point,
there.
yeah, like we've seen. Listen, and I'm gonna say this, and we're gonna talk about something else, because we have seen some stuff and some gross negligence in this space to the point that it will make you sick to your stomach. I'll say that nevertheless. Like, you can't think that, and I know it's unfortunate, but not everybody has good intentions towards these so-called kids. They're really young adults.
Right.
You know what I mean? I know we all refer to them as kids because we kind of coddle student athletes more than anything else, which I don't know why we do that, because I think we do them a disservice, right? But we coddle them a lot, like we take care of everything. And so by the time, we start calling certain kids, like we have some kids that sign paperwork with universities and don't even get a copy of it. Can't even
And
tell me
that's
the
crazy.
can't tell me the terms and conditions of it. If I had $1 for every time a kid leave one school and this school owe me money, and I'm like, okay, well, where's the paperwork? I can't negotiate. I can't call. I can't do anything because I don't know what you agreed to.
Right.
Where's the paperwork that you signed? Does the paperwork say that they owe you this money by a certain time period? Is it vague? Like, I don't know. Well, baby, you got to go get what you signed.
Right.
Then we can talk, right? So it's one of those things where I tell parents all the time, like, I get it. And now we're in an era where everybody wants to be an NIL agent. Everybody wants to be in this space, right? Because they see dollar signs. Oh my God, like, yeah, now we're popping up. Everybody's experts. Everybody's been doing this for a long time. And I'm like, sweetheart, if you have been doing NIL on the outside opportunity, meaning endorsement deals, basically, you're going to get a deal from this vendor or this company. I don't want to be name dropping companies, but like, you're going to do these corporate deals. That we call that outside opportunities. That's the NIL space you've been in, but now you're trying to add in your NIL agreement collective and shared revenue. That's negotiating with universities.
Right.
That's apples and oranges, like two totally different worlds. And when you're dealing with universities and they know whoever your son is have represented and they don't know this business, they're gonna run circles around that person too. So, and not only that,
I
you
see
got to
it
make,
all the time.
yeah, and then they got to make sure that they like at least did some things like register with the state, certain things, because if they don't have a license as an agent, they're not registered with the state, and they're trying to do business with you, how can you hold them liable?
No, for
And then,
real.
oh, I'm assuming, well, what if they broke and don't really have no money because they're really trying to use your child as a come up? You are the
Right.
project. You know,
So
like,
you wasting money trying to sue and you don't even got nothing to sue.
and or the person you're trying to sue ain't got nothing to give. So you suing, what you gonna get? He ain't got nothing. But and it's one of those things where we just get more and more calls. Like I have, man, the influx of calls that I have been getting lately has been like, I can't make this up. And
You need
they're,
a tell-all book.
listen, I had a coach tell me
That's
years
how
ago,
many calls y'all she been getting. She need to make a tell-all book.
listen, I had a coach tell me years ago, he's like, Alvion, whatever you do, don't tell it all. Like whatever you do. Like, but
Listen.
luckily I grew up where integrity is important, right? Like I'm a safe space. So when people do confide in me, like, hey, I gotta take that to the grave. And so now, unless it's something crazy, y'all, I ain't saying like, I don't deal with people who are disingenuous towards children. So let's be clear on that. But some of the stories
Right.
that I get from parents who just need advice, who've been put in like really bad situations, or they just can't understand the university sometimes because it's like, well, like we had a kid, I'll give an example. I'm not going to say the schools, but like one thing that happens a lot, like a kid will leave one school, hop in a portal, land at this other school, and then realize once they get to that school, they're not eligible, whether it's academic or whether it's
Mm-hmm.
playing time. I've seen that
Right.
way too many times. Or I've seen it where a kid will leave one school, and again, when you talked about those coaches do low down stuff, sometimes they do. No diss to the good coaches, there's a whole bunch out there, but there's a few bad apples, right? Well, they'll
Right.
intentionally tell a kid, oh, don't drop the classes, or don't do this and don't do that. Now this kid then stayed in this class too long, right? Or he just like stopped going to the class but don't drop the class, and then ends up transferring. Now they didn't put an eye on this child's transcript, and
Incomplete.
now, yeah, and now this child goes to the other school. He's in the school, but now he's not academically, because of graduation progression, according to the NCAA, he's not eligible. And the parents is like, but how and why and da, 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 da. Because the university trumps coaches. It's no
Right.
diss to a coach. Their rules in the NCAA, it trumps a coach. So you can't just go by a coach saying, yeah, come on, hop in the portal. Like you got homework you have to do first. Are my classes going to transfer over? What percentage of my classes are going to transfer over? Because I had one kid lost a whole year. This boy had to go take summer school in order to be eligible to even play in the school he went to. Didn't have to pay out of
Right.
pocket. They don't tell y'all that.
No, they stack those classes up in the summer and tell you, here you go, this is the bill. Make sure you pay it before you start classes. And then a lot of the times the player is like, Miss, how do I pay this? I don't have enough. Or I'm not even on scholarship. Those be the big ones right there, those walk-ons who be so confused with the whole process. So yeah, it's really important that you all like tap in. Definitely take this master class with AB so you can learn what you need to learn, because it's very sad that coaches and football programs would take advantage of people like this. It's just really
Yeah.
sad. But
And
it's how it is.
yeah, and I'll say this because I try to be very mindful of the words in which we use, right? Because you're teetering where you got fans that will take up for your university and be like, not my school, but these are the same people when the player don't drop a ball or something, they're sending death threats, right? Because which I don't
Right.
even
Comments
understand
be
where.
crazy.
Right. It's like, yo, it's just football, or it's just a sport. Like, can we not go that far, right? Well, it's one of those things where it's such a touchy area. And that's why I try to tell people, like, just take your emotions out of it. Take your feelings out of it and look at it 100% business. Take the athletic part out of it, right? And focus strictly on the child going to this university as a student, right?
Right.
Because that's that part. And make sure that they are eligible, all of this stuff, they're in those guidelines, whatever that is, and then understanding the NCAA. So you have all of these nuances that comes coupled in from a parent's perspective or experience, come at the hand of a coach.
Yeah.
But the coach is doing their job. And really and truly, it's to recruit your child and then to coach your child. It's really not the compliance side. That's really not a coach's job. That's why you have a compliance department. It's really not player development when you really want to be honest. That's why they have a player development department. You get what I'm saying? Like it's there's departments for these pieces because that's really not the coach's nut and bucks of his job. Now, do some coaches develop players? Absolutely. We know some coaches that
Yeah.
are really good at it. That's going to teach them X's and O's and all of that. But now, and you could talk more about this too, Regine, understanding like there's a roster number now. They can get cut now. You get what I'm saying? Like it's not, I mean, it's kind of always been like that to an extent where you only can do so many scholarships. But at one point, graduation for the program mattered because coaches had bonuses tied to that and executives had bonuses tied to graduation rates. That's what ADs and whatnot would care about because that's how they got certain accolades based off of, okay, you get a student in here, what is your graduation rate, stuff like that. So they used to have penalties. Well, those penalties are off the table. So that's not as much as it is as a priority for some universities. Because some universities,
Correct.
no matter,
Some
it's not all
universities.
like some academia programs, like it's always been about academics. It's football is secondary or sport
Right.
is secondary, right? So again, nothing that we're saying is ever absolute because there's always different scenarios and there's always different situations. And we're always kind of talking about we call them case studies, like stuff that we know has happened over the years. But like talk about that though, Regine, like how guys can get cut, how this is more of a roster, like real roster management kind of situation, which i.e. baby NFL. That we
Right.
this
So
kind of space.
as of right now, per the NCAA, rosters are looking around like 105 number. Now that's give or take with the last settlement that came out from the House, where long story short, but if you were on a roster and they cut you, you can basically go to another school and basically say you were cut from the 105 and they still have to accept you. But that's a whole nother episode. But basically, yes, it's the mini NFL. So really you get your 85, scholarships or whatnot. And then the remainder number is your walk-ons or intended walk-ons. So with this whole new NIL world with revenue sharing and all of that type of stuff, it depends on the program, but most of the time, you may find some head coaches who want to give everyone the same amount, give or take, the quarterbacks, the D linemen, the O linemen, a little extra just because those are the heart of the program and the game, actually. So 105 is like the magic number, but really it's just honing in and knowing where your son lies in that 105 number. And when you walk in these rooms, making sure that you're asking the questions. Okay, well, what does revenue sharing look like for my son? How are you guys moving in the collective world? Are you guys still, funding players out of that? What are some other opportunities where we can get him collective money, NIL, which is what we call a signing bonus at this moment. But just being able to articulate those questions across the head coach, because you will have a head coach meeting at the end of your official visit, just making sure that you have your nooks and crannies financially set up, but also understanding what their full scholarship offers. Is it just your tuition? Is tuition, room, and board? Will he get a financial aid disbursement check of the remainder amount of his scholarship and how much and what that looks like? Even to the point where they can provide a printout for you because that is public record or whatnot. So you could be able to plan financially for your son so you won't have any financial heartaches.
And I'm glad you said that and touched on that because we get parents that call us out of frustration where a student athlete will transfer from one school to another and they have to foot the bill in the beginning and they're calling us like, hey, well, they haven't given me my money back. And I'm like, well, in some cases, there is no money to be getting back. Like you are responsible for that. And so sometimes people have
Right.
a misconception that as soon as he transfers, that the dollars start rolling in. And so again, like Regine is talking about, you have to have these conversations and ask these questions. But if you don't know, how do you know to ask the, you know what I mean? The right questions to
Right.
get the right answers so you can make the right decisions. And that's why it's important to have representation because now you're in a space where you might can negotiate some of that. Like, hey, if you want us to come, then you're gonna have to fit some of this bill, moving, fees and stuff like that, because that's technically what it is. Like one mom was frustrated because she was like, I had to go get his apartment and I had to go do this and I had to go do that and I had to da 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 da. And like I'm 3 or 4 grand in,
Right.
and so we're like, yeah, that's kind of how it goes.
Hmm. She like,
And
where my money at?
and I'm like, baby, he gonna have to pay you back out of his coins when he get his coins, once the
Right.
the money start rolling in. And so I think that's why education is so important. That's why I've opened the classes up for anyone now, and not so much of just like invite only kind of thing where you have access to it so we can kind of break some of the stuff down and talk it out of. So again, like we're not trying to make you experts in it because honestly, like it's so much information that it can really overstimulate you and really make you like some parents get to the point where they start hyperventilating like this is just too much. So the
Right.
goal is to give you enough information to where at least you're not feeling like you don't know anything or you know how to ask certain questions, or when they're talking to you, you can at least process and comprehend some of this and digest it in a manner that you can say, okay, I understand what you're really saying to me, right?
Right.
Versus, like we said, just sitting there and nodding, like, because you're too embarrassed to say, hey, I don't really understand this. So unless
Right.
you bold enough to do that, and also bold enough to do that and hope that they are honest with you, then go ahead and do that. Because, like I said, I don't want to come off like negative about universities or whatever the case may be, because we have some amazing institutions out there, right? Amazing programs out there. I do know that sometimes, unfortunately, there are individuals that work for said, universities that don't always do what's best for the children. I'll say it that way. I won't put it all on the university, because sometimes you can have people working for you and not really knowing what they're doing, right?
What's going on? Yeah.
Right. And so that's why I think it's important for parents to be active and advocates of their children. And the reason why I say that is because it's been a time where, like, when we start getting on disability insurance, that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother day. I remember a parent calling me and they're like, oh, they told me my child isn't eligible. My child didn't qualify. I'm like, I know this ain't gonna be true.
Mhm.
So I call my guy and I'm like, hey, just do me a favor, run this name for me and tell me if this person is eligible or not. Sure enough, that child was eligible for like $3 million in disability insurance.
Ooh.
And so I'm like, now some people are like, well, why would a person be not be honest? Because they don't want to pay the money. That's why. Or they don't want to have that hard conversation with the parent to say, hey, I don't want to pay this money for your child, even though I just paid it for this one. So there's a whole string
Mm.
of rules that comes with that we're not gonna touch on today, but that we do talk about in the course, just breaking that down for you of what that looks like, what the school can pay for, what you can pay for on your own, all of that, what the NCAA pays for, all of that kind of stuff, right? Like what does that really look like? Um or whatnot. And so it's just one of those things where it's this business is different. So, do you want to touch on this whole, since people have been asking us like what do we think about moms suiting up on visits?
Yeah, we can. We can touch it a little bit. So, if you guys don't know, it's a trending photograph that's going around. It was three LSU commits who had their mothers suit up in football uniforms, and it's been getting a lot of backlash, especially with one of the mothers who's very curvy, I would say, just being picked on in the comments or whatnot. And we just wanted to discuss it a little bit just from our expertise. on the background. So what you got, AB?
That's the touchy area too. I feel like everything about this industry, it just sometimes it gets really touchy because you have half of the people that feels like it's dope, it's fire, it's this, that's cool. Then you have half of the people that's like, man, that's weird, right? And then for me, from a professional lens, it's like I'm not sure how I feel about it if I'm looking at it from a professional lens. Because if you coming in, I know some coaches will not verbalize and say that because as a coach, if you want to go put on a uniform and that's what it's going to take me to recruit your child, then by all means, baby, put the uniform on, right? As long as it's not against no
Right,
rule, have at it. But the reality is some coaches in the back of their head, like, you making this about you and not your son. Because for some people, that jersey means sacrifice. For some people, that
right,
jersey and putting that on means that, like, I've done my due diligence, I paved the way, I put in the work to put this jersey on. And this is a privilege, as a byproduct of what I've done to get on that field. And now, it's almost like somebody said it this way. It's almost equivalent to you paying all the money, because I get mamas put in a lot of work. Listen, mamas make sacrifices like nobody else, especially football moms. Not to take away from any other
right,
sport. I would say sports mom or any mom that got like extracurricular stuff. Moms are the goats for sacrifice. All right. So some people might feel like, man, listen, I did everything to get him here. You don't know what I got to do. Like, I've earned that right. But you got some people that feel like, okay, that's equivalent to you paying and putting your kid through school and all this kind of stuff. And then it's their graduation date and you want to take a cap and gown picture with them too, because you was a part of that process.
right. Or even like when it goes to like their sorority and fraternity life, people putting on the Greek letters, but you don't understand their sacrifice and the time spent within trying to build in this organization. So I totally get it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been like a mixed thing. I just think this, right? If you're a mom and you're on a visit to do business, because I get that it's a fun experience, but somebody got to be locked in, because the
Yeah.
kid is be there to enjoy himself. He's supposed to be, putting on a uniform, trying this stuff out, experiencing, almost getting a taste of what it would like being on campus, being a part of this program. He's supposed to be there. So somebody got to be in the back checking out everything. You know what I mean? Like, all right, let me see how this really moving. Let me see how this really, somebody got to be laser focused. You know what I mean? And that's how I think. I think if I had to give advice, if it's a mom I'm mentoring, it's going to be, let's not do that, right? Let's get there and let's be about our business. And not to imply that these women didn't, because I don't know nobody coming from me like, oh, they don't. I'm not saying that they didn't at all,
Right.
because they could. Some people are multifaceted where they can play, joke, whatever, and then hop out that and get right back in the zone. So let's be clear about that. But for some people, it would give a distaste. They may not openly tell you this as a coach, but it will give some
Mm-hmm.
people a distaste of saying, like, you're making this process about you and it takes the spotlight off your son, and now the spotlight is on you, because now the conversation isn't about your son athleticism, i.e. in this situation with these women. Now it's become about your body. Now
Right.
you got men talking about your body. Now you got coaches laughing and talking about who fine and who not, and who looked crazy and who didn't, because it's no longer about the sport or you
Right.
just move the conversation in a direction that I don't think is worth it, in my opinion. Now, if you just have a
Mm-mm.
desire that you just got to be in a jersey that bad, like, once he get to the team, take his jersey and y'all go take a family portrait.
Right. Or even to the point, if you want to just be in a picture, you could just, I've seen it where moms and dads are just in a regular picture while the kid is in the uniform. You don't have to go to, the extreme of actually putting on the gear. That moment, like I always say, like this whole journey is your son's journey, and you are there to be in the car supporting and riding this ride with him, but not necessarily driving in the driver's seat, if that makes sense. So
Yeah.
I think that's really important. And also to like the piggyback off of you with people to scene, like this is the perfect time to people the scene and have sidebar conversations while the photo shoot is going on. It's a great opportunity for you to observe everyone's body language, see how involved the coaches are, because a lot of the times I tell these moms to ask, these coaches, why my son, why do you want him here so bad, why do you think he fits in the scheme? This is the time to have those conversations to really figure out the authentic way of understanding, well, why do they want him here? Do they want him here because he's a strong academic student, or do they want him here to actually help them win a championship and make it to a bowl game? So these are the things you need to do while, in this space, to make sure that you and your family, but particularly your son, is going to be in a safe space to excel and be successful.
Yeah. And that's some good points. I think again, I'm big on whatever floats your boat, right? Whatever makes you happy, whatever you think is best for you and your child, by all means do it. Because like I said earlier, like nobody has to live with the consequences, the fallout of those said decisions, but you and your child, or in most cases
Right.
your child. So I just think that as parents we have to be conscientious, because I thought, like, even reading those comments and stuff, it was like weird to me because I remember they had a dad that did this some years ago, and they tore his dad to shreds.
Mm,
It was to them the weirdest thing ever. Like, he trying to take, so I really was shocked that it was a lot of people that kind of thought it was dope, you know. And so that was kind of intriguing to see, like, okay, some people do think that this is dope or whatever the case may be. But like I said, I just think that it potentially can, there's pros and cons to everything. Like, okay, it's dope, or whatever, but I just don't know moms coming on visits and now that being a part of the recruiting process, taking pictures like in jerseys, because we women, like, we can't play football. Not that we had women that's tried and stuff like that, but it's like, and not to be like, here, oh, like, what you mean we can't play? Like, that's a dangerous sport. These
right.
men are strong. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we cannot get hired by the NFL. We can't get scholarships. Or if we can, they're not going to most likely give a scholarship to a female. So it's like setting a precedence of something that is like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. That's a
It just
Yeah, for me, I still try to digest that from, like, how I am, like, everything, looking at the positive, trying to look at the negative, like, just trying to find balance in whatever decision anybody makes, because I think that we all have the right to do whatever we want to do. I just would hate to see school visits turn into, we're now having to recruit a mom and a player, or a dad and a player, and not it's not just about this child or the student athlete. Like, I
right,
think it should remain about the student athlete, his experience, because he's the one that really got to go there, he's the one that got to play there, he's the one that got to deal
right,
with whatever comes with that, like, he has to live that stuff every day. So the objective should be to obtain as much data, as much information, and extract as many questions and answers from these people, so that you and your son not just have a good experience, but can make a good decision.
right. No, I totally agree. So as we're shifting gears on this, this is just his process. Support him, like I said before, as much as you can, but don't be too extreme with it, mama. Like, we know you love your baby. You want to be there and have the best experience ever on these OVs. And even if when he commits to these universities, being there, but again, just be that support system that he needs, and try not to take the light off of him. So with that, moving forward, AB, do you have any spiritual tips, any scriptures that we can give these mamas before we dip out?
Not you throwing me under the bus, but no, I do think that I recently released a How Does Football Moms Pray, and I've been doing kind of like a series. And one of the biggest things that I found that to be kind of like really, really cool is the feedback that we got from how moms feel, right?
Yeah.
About just the different things that they go through. So one of the slides that I placed out on there kind of talks about, like, God helping them reset. And maybe we could talk about some of this next week, because I'm not sure how much time we have, but not resenting the sacrifice that they have to make, right?
Mm.
And because I know a lot of moms that literally, as much as they love their child, and they'll say, I love my son, don't get me wrong. That's always like the precursor. Like, don't get me wrong. If I got to do it all, like, I love my children, but if I have to do it all over again, I might
Yeah.
not. And so you hear that a lot, and a lot of moms beat themselves up. And so I always tell moms, like, don't get to the point where you start resenting that sacrifice, or if you do, ask God to help you, right? And so,
Mm.
moms give up a lot. Like, they give up sleep, they give up time, they give up money, they give up all of these things. And so the enemy would love to make you bitter, because I've even seen moms that unfortunately get sometimes jealous of even their son's success, because it's like they feel like they've sacrificed everything for this child. I actually did a football mom series in person, and I started talking about this, and I had a mom literally break down crying, like, inside the live session.
Mm.
And she was like, at the end, she said, I'm that mom, that mom, that one right there you were describing, that's me. And I told her, I said, listen, hold your head up. It's okay. Like, we're normal. We're human beings. You have a right to sift through whatever you're feeling. The key is not sitting there and not staying there, right? And so, you're sowing these seeds, and look at it like you pouring it, and God's going to give you a harvest, right, from the seeds. Because that the scripture,
Mm.
when it talks about, we reap whatever we sow, there's a principle there. So if you're sowing joy, you're going to get joy. If you're sowing hatred, you're going to get hatred. That's why I always tell people I'm not retaliatory, because if you do me something that's foul, even though some people might deem it right by me coming back and being foul back, I gotta reap that. So I don't want to reap that. Right?
Oh
So
wow.
I'm not going to be retaliatory, and because you did me this, I'm gonna do you something back. Now I'm gonna let God deal with you on that. So I always tell people, like, ask God to give you joy for your sacrifice, and
Mm.
to help you not grow weary in the well doing, right? Because the Bible talks about, if you don't give up in the well doing, that, and basically it's Galatians 6:9. Matter of fact, it says, and let us not grow weary in of well doing or good doing, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So I always tell moms, like, at the end of the day, you know, you're not just paying for your son's dream. You're not just sacrificing for his dream. You're investing in his destiny. And as a result, God will bless you. And what that looks like, I'm not sure, because that's different for everybody, right? And so I just tell
Right.
people to pray about that, because it's a real thing that moms go through, because nobody really knows the level of sacrifice that moms have to make to get these players at these universities. I had a mom one time, she lost her house. She stopped paying her house note.
Oh wow.
Yeah, she stopped paying her house note so that her son could go to these camps, because they cost a lot.
Mm.
So she would pay, and I remember her crying, but he got that scholarship. And she looked at me one day and she said, Alvian, it was worth it. And so she was all like discombobulated, and I'll never forget that. And I told her, I said, listen, because then her mindset got, well, I got him to school. So she had this mindset, when he gets to the NFL, he's going to take care of me. And I told her, I said, I don't want you to have that mindset. That's not fair to him. I want you to have a mindset of, while he's in school, you're going to go to school. Because if he ends up being in that 98%, I don't want you to take another 4 years of your life waiting for somebody to give you this money or whatever you think your son is going to give you. And that's going to make everything on better. Like, position yourself to win. And I thank God
Mm.
she listened to me, because her son ended up like signing like an undrafted free agent contract, but he never really made it to the league. So imagine, had she wasted
Mm.
those 4 years. So she ended up going to get a degree. She was able to get a good job. And she was like, Alvian, thank you. So we always
Oh
talk about
wow.
that, because you just never know, right? Like, how a kid may land. Like, I even have a friend, and I'm being mindful because some people that know me, we can kind of put some of this stuff together. But she had a son who was projected to go like first round, like bona fide, like top
Mm.
10 bona fide, you know what I mean? He ends up getting injured. So imagine if that was her, you know what I mean? Like, plan to, so because there's no guarantees in this business, a lot of times you can land. It's almost like gambling, like,
Right.
there's a high chance you might win in the cases of data. And we see that a lot. Like, okay, you got the Jamar Chases of the world, the Leonard Finesse people, because, people calling people from my city that, like, okay, we know they going and they,
Right.
and so you have a lot of those, but then you have a lot that they have promised, but then they don't get it. And so I always tell parents, it's a dangerous game if your plan is 100% reliant upon whether or not your son makes it to the NFL. Like, give him
Right.
something work with should he make it, whether that's a degree, whether that's a business, like, just putting something in place where you got something to work with, or if that don't work out, you got something that you can fall back on and move forward. So that's my tidbit.
Awesome, moms. If you want this how to pray like a football's mom guide, please text pray to 504-800-8512. And we have it on
Yeah.
the screen right now. Again, text pray to the number that's on the screen, and we will gladly get that guide over to you. So as we're wrapping up Dear Football's Moms, episode number 4, we just want to say, you got this. You got this. We believe in you and your athlete, and we just hope that you take every gem that we put on this platform for you all and apply it. Apply it. Ask questions. Attend our master class. Tune in every weekend to watch our episode, or every week on Tuesday live when we drop it. But we really, really appreciate you all. We love you all. AB, you have anything to add on to that?
I love y'all so much. Y'all have no idea. I love y'all. And I really hope out of all what we said that you took something. And just remember, like, no matter what, we love y'all. We're here for y'all. If you have questions, you have concerns, like, again, like, you could text us, you can call us. We can, try to answer as best to our knowledge and our experience, or whatever. But share this, like it, and come back next week.
All right. Bye.
Bye.